What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing us another live stream. Traveling again, so not exactly this usual setup that we've got, but we'll make it work. I'll make sure I keep getting you guys all this content out there. Yeah, I think we can just hop right into things. We got a couple of really big updates. Rather than going game by game here, I think I'll just go position by position in terms of inactives and actives, and then I can help you guys get all set with your start sit questions as well. So while I'm going reading off all this stuff, you can just let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'll make sure I respond to those live here as well. Starting things off with the only sort of question marks we had at the quarterback position, Justin Fields and Matthew Stafford are both going to be active today. I think they're both like low end quarterback starting options. Not anybody that I'm excited about playing. I think that both could easily have really good and really bad games. There's a very wide range of outcomes for both of them. So I kind of would be preferring to sit either one of them or sit both of them if I can. But if I can't, then I'm probably just going to be expecting like a mid tier performance. Nothing super exciting there, but they're both startable options. Before I get to the running backs, we've got Jake Asteen, Dalton Schultz, or Cole Kmet. I really like Dalton Schultz's matchup against the Cardinals this week. I think that could be a really high scoring game. So I think I want to play Schultz, but Kmet could certainly score a touchdown and make me wrong there. Um, Next up, we got the running back position for the Dolphins. Devon Achane is going to be active. Sort of a surprise inactive as well for the Dolphins today. It looks like Jeff Wilson is not going to suit up. So that gives me a little bit more confidence with Devon Achane. He's definitely a must start for me, as is Mostert. They're both going to have really awesome games, I believe, this week against the Raiders. Really plus matchup for those guys. Before I keep reading, we've got Lockett or Deontay. I'd go Lockett. I know he's been banged up with a hamstring injury, but Lockett's sort of been dealing with that injury on and off all season. It's not something that really worries me. He's just been sort of managing it during the week. And Lockett's poised for a really big game against a relatively mediocre Rams secondary. I think that could be a high scoring game. So I'm starting Lockett everywhere I have him, and I'm starting him in a DFS lineup. So I do like Lockett quite a bit this week. Next up for the running backs as well, we've got Khalil Herbert and Deonta Foreman. They're both going to be active for the Chicago Bears. To me, that makes it really easy. You're just not going to start any of them. The Lions have a really good front seven, not anything that you want to be running against. And if you're going to be splitting touches between three running backs in Chicago, it's just not something that I'm excited about at all. Rico Dowdle popped up on the injury report on Friday with a bit of an injury during the game or during practice on Friday. It sounds like he's still going to be active, but I think that possibility of like an uptick in snaps and everything for him, we might not see that this week. I still think he's worth rostering because I do believe he's in many ways looked better than Tony Pollard. He's looked better in short yardage situations. He's had a couple more explosive runs. I think Dowdle does need to be owned and definitely someone that I'd be wanting to keep on the back end of my bench, but I get it if you need to drop him. He's not a guy that I would consider flexing or anything in like a really deep league this week just because that injury could limit him. And I don't want to be playing a limited Rico Dowdle. Dameon Pierce, Antonio Gibson, and Jeff Wilson, like I already mentioned, they're all going to be inactive. Antonio Gibson's a little bit surprising. We didn't really hear a lot about his injury until later on in the week. He's going to miss this game. Brian Robinson's got to be in all of your lineups, probably a top 10 play this week. Giants' run defense is absolutely awful. They give up the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL, and now there's no competition. If you want to get kind of sneaky with like a DFS play of like Chris Rodriguez, you could do that. If you want to roster Chris Rodriguez and see if something happens, you could do that. But I think in general, it's just Brian Robinson and nobody else for the Commanders. Before I keep going on, curious if you think Aaron Jones can pick it up later in the later half of the season. I think so. I think he ends up being like a fringe top 15 running back the rest of the way. The last couple of weeks, he's been back to full health, playing more and more of the more and more of the allotment of snaps and touches that he's been given like the last couple of years. Obviously, AJ Dillon's still going to steal goal line work and all that. So that is a bit of a concern. And this offense obviously isn't as good as it used to be, but Aaron Jones still looks good whenever I'm watching him. He's a guy that has actually been getting more involved in the offense, and they need playmakers. If they want to be at all competitive on offense. I think Aaron Jones ends up being like a mid-tier running back two the rest of the way, not the running back one that we've seen in years past, but someone that's definitely worth rostering going forward. Dameon Pierce, we already knew he was going to be out, but I think that does make Devin Singletary just a rock solid start this week. Someone that I really do expect to have a really high end game. He's someone that should be in a lot of DFS lineups this week. A guy that if you want to pick up and start over even some of the higher end options, I think Devin Singletary could easily have another 100-yard touchdown game. Someone that probably should be in a starting lineup in every single league this week. Then Alexander Mattison, sort of a bit of a surprise. One of the few instances this season where we had some clear concussion protocol the week of. Alexander Mattison is going to play tonight against the Denver Broncos. Really just sort of put some cold water on the Tyson Chandler expectations here. Not something that I'm excited about at all for either one of them. I think I would prefer to be benching both of them. I have Alexander Mattison in one league, and I'm currently starting Gabe Davis over him, and that's against the Jets. That's not something that I'm excited about. And I don't roster Chandler anywhere, but I think Chandler and Madison are about equal this week. Madison's probably more likely to score a touchdown. Chandler's probably more likely to break off a long run or two. So they're both low end starting options for me. I'd prefer to look elsewhere outside of the Vikings backfield, but if you need to play them, I think you can just to temper your expectations for sure. Moving into the wide receiver position, we got Keenan Allen in and Jalen Guyton out for the Los Angeles Chargers. Keenan Allen, we never really thought he was going to miss this game. He's played through the injury last week. You gotta fire him up. He should be a rock solid start this week. And outside of that, there's obviously a lot of question marks for the Chargers at their pass catching positions. Gerald Everett's also inactive today for them, so Donald Parham's like a decent dart throw for to score a touchdown potentially this week. The Packers defense is not great against opposing tight ends. With Jalen Guyton out and Keenan being banged up, I think there is an opportunity here to play Quentin Johnston. Obviously, he hasn't really shown so far this season that he can actually perform at that NFL level. So we'll see what happens there. I think if you want to take a dart throw on him, he definitely needs to be rostered because he's getting more and more opportunities the weeks go on. There's more and more injuries around him. So if you want to pick up Quentin Johnston, he definitely needs to be rostered at this point, but it is a bit of a risky play to consider playing him. Michael Wilson's going to be inactive for the Arizona Cardinals. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but it does mean I'm pretty excited about Marquise Brown this week, along with Trey McBride. I think they'll both end up having pretty big games against the Texans this week, so they should both be in a lot of starting lineups. Zay Jones is active for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's the first time that's happened in a long time. They play a really mediocre Tennessee secondary. I'm not playing Zay Jones, but I think that does sort of limit the ceiling for both Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. I'm probably starting both Ridley and Christian Kirk, but I'm not excited about really any sort of high-end performance for either one of them, and it'll be interesting to see what this receiving core looks like with Zay Jones back, because if you guys remember back early on in the season, Christian Kirk was not coming onto the field for two wide receiver sets. It was Ridley and Zay Jones, and if that's going to continue for whatever reason, it shouldn't. Christian Kirk's probably their best wide receiver, but if it does really make things a little bit hairier for them going forward. Braxton Berrios, he's inactive, doesn't mean a whole lot. Justin Jefferson going to be inactive tonight. I think that makes Jordan Addison like a low-end wide receiver 2 this week, someone that I'm definitely starting in most of my leagues. Tyler Lockett, I talked about him. He's expected to play, as is Garrett Wilson later on today. You're starting both of those guys. No real hesitations for my end on both of them. And then last, at the tight end position, Durham Smythe and Gerald Everett, they're both going to be inactive. Durham Smythe was a bit of a surprise inactive. There's no backup or anything that you want to be looking at for Miami, but just interesting. We could see more usage for both the running backs in the backfield in the pass catching game, and I think Waddle is in line for a potentially really big game this week, along with obviously Tyreek Hill. And then Pat Freiermuth, he's in this week. Good to have him back on the field. I'm not playing him by any means, but if you're one of those managers that potentially lost Mark Andrews on Thursday, one of the leagues I lost him, I went and added Pat Freiermuth. Not going to play him obviously this week, but there's an opportunity here for him to look good and then end up being a really reliable tight end option for you guys the rest of the way. So I think Pat Freiermuth does need to be rostered in more leagues. So that's it for the injury updates. If anybody has any other specific questions, I'm happy to go through those. Otherwise, I think we're all set, and it should be a good week 11. So stick around for a minute or so here, and if nobody else has any questions, I'll probably hop off and just wish you guys luck this week. Just looking through various things. Not exactly super relevant, but Arthur Smith came out and said that they were planning to go back to Desmond Ridder the whole time. That's sort of interesting, and do think that Desmond Ridder is actually a little bit better than Heineke for the Falcons. So that's interesting. I think we'll see the Falcons look a little bit better next week, and potentially Bijan Robinson hopefully getting a lot more work. So he's someone that I'm definitely looking to ramp up as the rest of the season goes on. That's about all. Cool. Well, thank you guys for stopping by. I hope you guys can put together some wins this week, and I'll catch you guys Tuesday morning with the waiver video. Thanks. Bye.